Okay, let's try something else in Camtasia 2020. This is going to be kind of along the lines of our track mat training series. Let's go over to Camtasia, and I'll just demo this thing for you real quick. So here in Camtasia, let's get a nice big view here. And in fact, I think I'll even zoom in a little bit. There we go. So I just have some text. And what I'm going to do is create this kind of interesting effect using a track mat where if we just kind of watch, boop, got this nice little gal, jumps out of the middle of the O. Here's a robot guy popping in and waving. And you can even just use still graphic images to create this cool little effect. Let me deconstruct this for you real quick, and I'll show you a couple of caveats and some things to consider. So first and foremost, I happen to be using an animated character here, and I made this in CreateStudio, which is seriously one of my favorite tools at the moment. I'm going to show you how to do this real quick just because it's so cool. So I've created a new project in the program CreateStudio. If you guys haven't checked this out, it's just it's going to end up on the top list of apps for 2020. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, so here I've created a new project. I'm in the Studio tab. I'm going to go to Characters, and I'm going to go to 3D Characters. Down here, let's see, where is she? Where is the waving Michelle? She's down toward the bottom. Here we go. So we have Michelle. I'm going to drop this on the canvas. And the way this works is that each character has a whole bunch of different actions. And you just kind of tell her what you want her to do. So for this to pull off properly, I'm going to have her just sit idle for just a little bit of time here. Okay, let's add an action. Let's go down to waving. And I'm also going to add one more action at the end. And we're going to take her back to idle. If I preview this, she's going to stand there. She's going to wave. And then she's going to kind of stand there. So short clip, easy peasy. All that's on the canvas here is my little character. Here's what I love about CreateStudio. I'm going to go to Publish. I'm going to say MOV with transparency. And I'm going to choose a destination. I'm going to call this Michelle Waving and hit Save. When I do that, it's going to export out an MOV file, and that's basically what I'm going to use to pull this particular trick off. Like I say, you don't have to use animated characters. An animated GIF file that you might have would work. Anything that you want to poke out of a particular text element is basically going to be fine. Here, I just went to remove.bg, removed the BG from a photo of me, and I'm just going to poke my head through a piece of text. Okay. Now, obviously, this works best for certain letters, like an O or a D or something of that nature. You could, kind of make it pop up out of anywhere, but for our example, we're going to use the O just because it's kind of cool. All right, let's take a look at a couple of caveats and stuff here. First of all, one tip that I'll give you is the absolute easiest way to do this is with a certain font, and you'll see why in just a second. Here, this font is Agency FB, and I believe this is in the Windows font library, so you should probably all have it. If not, you can just kind of search for it, but I'm pretty sure that it comes with Windows. Maybe somebody can verify that for me today. Now, here's the scoop. The reason that I use this one is because we're going to need to mask out the area in our letter that we want to pop through. In fact, I'm going to, what do I have here? Robot guy, robot guy. Okay, let's delete this. Let's delete that. And let's kind of build this. So just a couple of text boxes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's go to annotations and to shapes. And you can just go ahead and add yourself a shape. Doesn't matter what color. And to set this up, what we'll do is, let's think about how our track mats work. So what I want to do is I want to take this shape and I want to kind of punch out the center of this letter. And just follow along here. You'll kind of get the gist of it as we go. To work on this, I'm going to go ahead and disable canvas snapping. Because otherwise, if you're trying to make fine adjustments here and snapping's going on, sometimes it's difficult. So let's just go ahead and turn that off for the moment. And the other thing that I'm going to do to help make this trick easier is I'm going to add a little bit of opacity to this. Because what am I trying to do? I'm trying to take this shape and I want to cover up the center, and probably some going up a little higher, of this middle, I guess the center of the O character. Right, so let's click off there. All right, so that looks good. The reason I use the Agency FB font is because what you'll notice is that I was able to cover that very accurately with a square shape, because if you see, the inside of the O here is in fact a square. That is not always the case with fonts, of course. An O would generally have an O, a circle shape. Well, I'll show you the problem with that in just a minute. But let's kind of finish this guy up. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. And let's go grab us a character. To put the character in, I want to move the mask up a layer, because masks need to be on top. Let's go to my library, and let's grab Waving Michelle, and let's pop her into the project right under our mask shape. Let's lock the mask so we don't mess it up position-wise. And now I'm just going to kind of size what we want to pop through the hole. And in this case, I'm going to kind of tilt her, put her in. Let's zoom in just a little bit. And the secret here is I want to make sure that any movement that she makes, or any part of her, is inside my track mat. Okay, so that all looks good. Let's unlock our shape, and let's boost our opacity back up. Don't forget to do that, or your track mat won't work right. All right, speaking of track mats, now that we have a mat, let's go right-click on the track, and we're going to set it to alpha. Alpha means, remember, the only thing that's going to show is whatever is directly underneath this shape in the size of the shape. So let's add an alpha mat and you'll see what happens. So now the only thing that shows, not the text, which is too far down, right? The only thing that shows is what is directly beneath the track mat, okay, which is Michelle waving, and the shape of our mat is positioned in such a way that she appears to be inside of the O. Okay, so now, of course, what we're going to want to do, as we are often want to do, is add some animation. So one of the easiest ways to do animation, or one of the tricks, is that I position things where I want them to end up. Okay, so this is the ending part. Let's go ahead, click on her, and I'm going to drop an animation keyframe. Shift A, or you can go to Animations and add a custom keyframe. I'm not worried about when this happens at this point. I just know that this is the end of the animation. It's where it ends up. So the easy way to animate it is to go to the beginning and just make a change. Where do I want it to start from? So now it's just kind of a matter of pulling her down out of sight, and there she is. Now what I can do is take the animation and tuck it into the beginning. I'd probably make this go a little quicker, right? And then just for giggles, let's go to the end and let's add us a restore keyframe, which is even easier because there's no work involved. What it's going to do is it's going to take her from where she ended up in the prior animation. Okay, that's the beginning keyframe here, and it's going to restore her to her original state down here. Let's see if that happens. And there she goes. So that's the basis of the trick, and it's kind of fun. I like it. Again, you can use almost any kind of asset that has transparency. I'm using an animated character, and certainly some images or assets work better than others. Something that is kind of, I'll almost call it tall instead of short and stubby, but in essence all you would do then is kind of adjust the position of your mask shape. Then of course when we're done tweaking all that up, group them both, select them both and group, and turn off the track mat on top. The track mat ends up inside the group, so it is now a self-contained unit. And again, since the text is on layers below, the only thing that gets affected by the track mat is our little animated character. Cool, right? Okay, so that's basically how it happens. Doesn't have to be text. Of course, I could draw a box shape and pull the same thing off using the same technique, right? But what happens, and I'm going to see how well this goes, because this gets a little more into it, but let me just show you, because it is a good example. Let me find something here. Let's use this text box. This is a good example of another technique you might want to use with track mats. So a more normal piece of text might be something like this, right? Certainly we'll want a nice big chunky font for this, and want it to be kind of big so that the object will show through. But here's the problem. What we need is a shape, don't we, for our mat? Okay, well, let's go to shapes, shall we? Let's go to shapes. Let's look at all the shapes, all the various shapes in Camtasia. And what you will not find is a shape with a rounded end. So ideally what I would like is what? A rounded rectangle. Well, you can't take a rectangle and add any rounding to it like you can in PowerPoint. Okay, so I guess one solution might be to go to PowerPoint. Let's create a new slide. Let's insert us a shape. Let's insert us a rounded rectangle. Okay, and what I could do is just right click, save as picture, make sure it's a PNG, and I could pull that into Camtasia and use that as a mat, right? Okay, well, if you don't want to do that, then here's a technique that actually works in Camtasia. So let's get started. Let's go, and I'm just going to add me that rectangle. So if we set some opacity to this, okay, let's zoom in. See my problem? I cannot put this sharp 90-degree edge and cover up everything I need to cover to make a seamless mat, can I? I can't. You just can't get there. Okay, if I do that, Well, what's going to happen? The mat is going to reveal this little bit of the white text in there. And that's just no good. It's going to look ugly. Now I can go like to here, but as soon as it gets to where this is rounded, I'm hosed, right? So let's try this. Let's go ahead and what kind of shape could we add? Let's just add us a circle into here. Let's add some opacity so we can again see underneath and see what we need to do. And I'm just going to monkey with this. So now let's just, okay, maybe I got to tilt it. Let's squish this in. Oh, maybe try to round it a little bit more until I can kind of get in there. And a little more. There we go. So now we're kind of in the game, aren't we? Let's just out a little bit more. All right. But the bottom line is that now I kind of have stuff covering this portion that I want something to poke through, don't I? Let's kind of highlight both of these. Let's set the opacity up to 100. You'll see that, even at that, I'm going to lose just a little bit, but it's not bad. But let's group this. Okay, now what do I have? Now I kind of have a custom shape that sort of fits the bill. And let's try our trick. Let's go to, where am I? Let's go to the clip bin. Let's add, oops, we got to move this up a track, right? Because this is now our mat. Let's add Michelle underneath. And I think what we'll do, let's go ahead and add our opacity to this again, just so we can position, lock this. So we can grab her and resize her, put her where we want, get her positioned up here to where she'll end up. And again, since this is an animated character, I'm going to scrub through here just to make sure her hand doesn't, come out the top or beyond my mat. She's going to wave. Okay, and that's all good. Okay, so now let's not forget to set our opacity back. And let's add us a track mat, an alpha mat. And boom, if we scroll in, you'll see that, okay, I fixed that little problem. And it still works. At this point we can, of course, animate her. Set a keyframe. Go to the beginning. Lock your track mat. Set a keyframe. Go to the beginning. Pull her down. Or really whatever direction you want her to come from. And boom, there we go. Alright, so unlock this. Select them both. Of course, after we make all our adjustments and all that good stuff. Group it up. Turn the track mat off. And God willing and the creek don't rise, this should work. There we go. So that's kind of a lesson in using track mats in the sense that if you want to mask something out and you don't have a shape that you can use, you can make shapes, can't you? Just by combining certain aspects or certain shapes and tweaking them up. Group them up, and then you got yourself a custom shape. Any questions on that? Yeah, Yusuf says, neat trick, thanks. Robert says he just bought CreateStudio today. Yeah, I love this thing. It's like my favorite.